everyone. Welcome to Coach Craig's Sports, and this is a new little live stream for us. We're talking some NFL, DraftKings, Showdown, Slate. This is something I like to do going forward and try to bring different people in, kind of talk through the game itself, and then kind of some of the strategy for the DraftKings Slate overall. So today we have Mr. JCMoneyDesign himself. Probably seen him around enough times on my channel as well. What's up?
What up, dude? It's Monday.
It's Monday, and it's an interesting game, interesting slate for DFS perspective as well, which seems like we've had a lot of those lately. Thursday wasn't the greatest, even though did pretty well on Thursday, but it was kind of an ugly game and a slate to navigate, and the same thing yesterday as well. So I'm going to bring up the DraftKings in the background here.
Yeah, I definitely think it's going to be, it could be one of those games where it's just kickers, or it could be a game where
there's a lot of different ways this game they could go, because if you look at Cleveland and Pittsburgh, we kind of thought that was going to be kind of defensive slugfest, maybe some kickers in there too, and then obviously I believe Cleveland scored 29 points. So different ways that you could approach that slate. That one you were pretty good to have like all the running backs pretty much. This one's kind of interesting. I like when I look at stuff, I like looking at the normal prices as opposed to the captain prices just going through, because you're playing more guys in your flex spots than you're playing at your captain spot, and it's pretty easy to multiply by a time and a half to get to the champion spot. So initially what I like to do here is just kind of go through the players that are playing tonight. Obviously, we should probably go through the guys that are inactive tonight first before we get started, though. So for the Cowboys, Michael Gallup is out. The two biggest ones for the Cowboys outside of Dak Prescott are going to be Michael Gallup and Dalton Schultz, both being inactive tonight. Jalen Tolbert is active for the first time this year, the rookie wide receiver out of Southern Alabama. And then they did promote Sean McKeon as a third tight end for tonight. He's a guy that's been around the team for quite some time. The other injuries, they do have Luke Gifford, just a special team linebacker, Jaron Kearse, their starting safety, Connor McGovern, one of their starting guards who's missed last game as well, and then Nashawn Wright, just a special teamer as well. On the Giants side, you got Tomon Fox, just a backup edge rusher, Justin Lane, a special teamer, Nick McLeod, a backup corner, Aaron Robinson, one of their starting corners out of UCF, second-year player there, so could be a spot to attack there. He is still out. He had an appendicitis that he obviously got his appendix removed for before last week's game, so he's still kind of dealing with that. Wan'Dale Robinson and Kadarius Toney are both out inactive once again, dealing with injuries. And then Leonard Williams, their big defensive lineman, their best defensive lineman, is not playing in this game as well. So could be a lot of things to take away from that. I don't know if you have anything right off the bat there.
No, we kind of talked about it before we came on, but the way, with some of these players like Schultz being out, like Gallup not coming back, Lamb's still going to be, I don't even think I have him in my lineup, just because I think he'll end up getting a lot of coverage.
See, yeah, I wonder if they'll just shadow him with Adoree Jackson, their best corner, like the whole game. And Adoree Jackson's just been a very, very hit or miss corner throughout his career. He's a pretty fast guy, but I think Lambs does pretty decent day versus him. I feel like this is an easy slate if you wanted to build a cash lineup, because you just take the guys that are going to be pretty popular. You're going to take Saquon Barkley, you're going to take CeeDee Lamb, Sterling Shepard, and then whether or not you want to throw in like Ezekiel Elliott in there, one of the quarterbacks, you're going to probably throw in one of the two kickers, maybe one of the two defenses. And it's a pretty simple slate for cash, at least I would say. You could even talk about throwing Noah Brown in there as well, since it's really just him and CeeDee Lamb tonight for the guys that we know are going to be on the field the majority of the time for the Dallas Cowboys. We got the tight end situation without Dalton Schultz, so we have a couple different guys there. I'm going to see if I can bring this up real quick, because on DraftKings, you can hit the little dip chart here, and it'll show you kind of all the guys and their prices. We're going down to the tight end, and you'll see all these guys are $200. So we got Sean McKeon, the guy that I talked about being promoted. He's a little banged up as well. And then there's Peyton Hendershot, who is a rookie undrafted tight end out of Indiana. Had a pretty solid career there. Was a decent little receiver in his time at Indiana. And then Jake Ferguson, I believe the 4th-round pick out of Wisconsin. Had a very productive career at Wisconsin, but he's kind of more of your traditional tight end where he's a decent blocker and a little bit of a threat as a receiver. You can take stabs on any of those three guys if you really want to tonight. I have a little bit of exposure to a little bit of all of them, if I'm being honest, because they're $200 dart throws essentially. In terms of The wide receivers for the Cowboys, obviously CeeDee Lamb's at the top at $10,200. He's a guy that's going to be very, very popular because he's the main guy, obviously, and we know he's going to get his targets. Obviously, we don't have to worry about Michael Gallup now, but Noah Brown, $6,800. It's a decent price tag for him. I mean, he's priced up a decent amount, but it's being the number 2 in this offense, he's definitely in play there. Simi Fehoko, the second-year player out of Stanford, is $2,400. It's more than I like to pay for him. But you have to think one of these other like 3 wide receivers have to do something tonight because it's only Fehoko, Turpin, and Tolbert active tonight. Tolbert, this is the first time he's played out in his career. He's $1,000. Turpin, $600, but he does have the added bonus that he does return kicks and punts. So there's always the chance that he could take one back there. Sometimes I like to target guys like that just because you get that little extra bonus if they play on offense and then they play a little bit of special teams. We call it the Isaiah McKenzie, what he was kind of in the past. You could look Hester. Well, even here, like Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard are only separated by $200. Ezekiel Elliott is $8,400. Tony Pollard's $8,200 so far on the season. Points per game, Tony Pollard's outpaced Ezekiel Elliott, but I think this could be a pretty good game for Ezekiel Elliott with no Leonard Williams. The Giants have kind of done this weird thing, or at least they did last week, where they played a safety instead of their second linebacker in their kind of 3-4 defense. They do get their edge rushers back tonight in Azeez Ojulari, who was very good as a rookie last year, and then top 10 pick Kayvon Thibodeau out of Oregon, who obviously has a lot of hype behind him. So we'll see how that pressures the Cowboys overall, and maybe if they help stuff the run. I don't think those guys are going to make too big a difference in that regard, though. But I think Ezekiel is kind of interesting. And my whole point there was last week they played Xavier McKinney essentially as their second linebacker, and he's a safety, like a 210-pound safety. So if that's the case, that the Cowboys can get some push. Jason Peters is active tonight. I think they expect him to start at left tackle, and they're going to kick Tyler Smith back to left guard. Don't quote me on that, though. I don't know for sure that's the case. But Cowboys side is very interesting. We got Cooper Rush at $9,600, which is kind of interesting that he's higher priced than Daniel Jones, considering he's the backup quarterback in this situation. I think you can have interest in both of these guys. Daniel Jones is going to be the one that's a little bit more mobile, though. So if you're
rushing in terms of that, get a little bit of rush yards out of him. I mean,
he might trip.
He
might trip after 80 yards, though. But
I'd be happy with an 80-yard rush, though.
Yeah, that's 8 points. I mean, it's an interesting slate tonight. I mean, on the Giants side, we got Saquon Barkley's $11,800. He is the most expensive player on the slate, and he's going to be the most popular player on this slate. I probably wouldn't play him in the captain spot. I'm going to open up my other tab because I got to run the Sims over there who have projected ownership for captains. Their projected ownership for Saquon Barkley in the captain spot is 35%. So that means if Saquon Barkley is the ideal captain, you're already tying with 35% of people. And that's pretty much the cash line. That's not even the cash line at this point. So if you want to get a little bit different, you can look there. Daniel Jones comes in about 12% ownership in the captain spot. Sterling Shepard's 9%, which is up a little bit more now, I do believe, since Kadarius Toney was officially ruled out. But Sterling Shepard is the guy that I have some interest in there. Richie James is a popular name tonight. I know a lot of people have been hyping him up. But a guy that I'm really interested in from the Giants side is David Sills. We talked about him a little bit on our our Saturday night Twitter space. And for people that don't know, he was the 14-year-old quarterback that Lane Kiffin offered at USC. And then he ended up turning into a wide receiver at West Virginia, had double-digit touchdown games 2 years in a row before he went to the NFL. He wasn't drafted or anything else like that. He's dealt with some foot injuries, and that's kind of kept him off the field for the first 2 years of his career, but he's a big body guy. He played 92% of snaps last week. We know he scored over 20 touchdowns in 2 years at West Virginia as a wide receiver in college. So he does have that big body mold. If they get in the red zone, they could find him there. The big question is whether or not is he going to get the same snap share as last week, or is Kenny Galladay actually going to come back in the mix because he only played 2 snaps last week? I think they're kind of done with Kenny Galladay at this point in time. So I have a lot of interest in David Sills, and I think that's an area, if you wanted to play him in the captain spot, that you could gain a lot of leverage because his captain spot projected ownership is less than 1%. And he might just get 3 catches and get a touchdown and be like the ideal, or one of the ideal captain spots. There's a lot of different ways that you can approach the slate. Let's see.
What do you got for kickers?
Yeah, so the kickers, you can play either one. You got Graham Gano at $4,000, and then Brett Maher is $4,200. So they're pretty much the same, honestly. When
what's
I
the
did
ownership?
They are not projected in the captain spot, but Gano in the flex spot is 29%, and Brett Maher is at about 19%. So most of the lines I built, I leaned a little bit more to Maher as well, just because there's a little bit of differentiation there. The Cowboys defense about 23%, and the Giants defense is 28% and 2% in the captain spot. So you can definitely play defense in the captain spot. I know a lot of people out there hype it up because it has won sometimes this season, but it's still less likely to win than how popular it typically is in games like this. I would expect the captain spot ownership of that to be higher than the 2% aggregate, though. So let's see here real quick.
I think Gano last week had 17 points. So if either one of the kickers could do that, would be pretty awesome. Because it's times what, 0.5, right?
Yep. So he'd have, what would that be, 25.5 points?
1.5, yeah.
Which that's probably if he has 17 points, there's a good chance that he's the ideal play tonight. Same thing with defense. If they get a pick six or a fumble recovery for a touchdown, that could also be an ideal play as well. That would probably be easier for the Cowboys defense to do, because that's kind of what they specialized in doing last year. But overall, pretty interesting there. We had the two tight ends, or technically three. We have three tight ends technically for the Giants. We got Daniel Bellinger, who scored a touchdown last week, but hasn't been too involved in the offense. Tanner Hudson, who's maybe a little bit more of a receiving threat, but he's been more of a preseason type of darling guy for the Titans when he was there. And then there's Chris Myrick, who's the hybrid, fullback tight end guy. And I believe he scored a touchdown week 1, but otherwise hasn't been too involved. So there's a lot of different ways you can look at it. I'm really not interested in any of the Giants backup running backs, so we're not even going to bother talking about them. Between Matt Breida, Gary Brightwell, and Antonio Williams, I think they're all actually active this week too. I don't think they've all been active the same week, but Brightwell's and Williams mainly special teams guys. Breida would be the main backup, but even that, he's not that great, and he's already $2,000. It's not like he's $400 and you want to go play him or something like that. That'd be a different story, but it's pretty interesting slate, though. Let's see.
Yeah, I think I'm going to have to change my up a little bit. So I guess I was trying to be extremely different. Some of the ones I'm only playing in the where you can only play one,
Okay, so you're playing a single entry. So in a single entry, you don't have to be quite as different, because you're only, say there's 2,000 people that enter the contest. There's 2,000 total lineups, and everybody's going to use essentially what they consider their best lineup, or what they perceive to be their best lineup, as opposed to like a 20 max or a 150 max, which I don't do 150 max for single game showdown slates, just because that's just getting a little bit too crazy there, because you only have so many different options. Yes, you could cover every single basis in theory, but most of the time it's not worth it in single game. If you want to do it on a regular slate, a main slate, or turbo slate, something like that, afternoon or morning slate for regular NFL DFS, you could do that. But
because mine's definitely,
we got
Richie James. What's up, Antonio?
Antonio up in here. So I think that we're going to get out of here real quick. So we could build a couple different lineups. We got about 28 minutes before this game starts. Let's see. And
so I'll just tell you mine real quick. So I went with not Maher. I went with Gano at kicker, just because there could be an opportunity where the defense stops them enough to where they're just kicking the ball. But then the thing is I feel like I have too many Giants players then if I'm going with that theory, because I went with Bellinger to be different, but I can get rid of him because I have, I said, I had 7,200 left, so I can just put somebody else in, like Lamb or something like that if I wanted to. Because I went with Noah Brown and Richie. What's his name? Richie James.
Yeah, and I think he's a little too popular tonight, if I'm being completely honest.
Well, just because he's had he's done well.
He had a good week 1.
Sterling Shepard. He's doing okay, good enough. I mean, he's the wide receiver 2 probably on that team right now with Tony being out.
He's the wide receiver 1 on the team right now.
Sterling Shepard. I mean, Sterling Shepard. I mean, this could be the week.
Sterling Shepard's the number 1 this year.
This could be the. I mean, where players just bounce back, like certain players, like Shepard, or like. I mean, you already said.
Shepard's been good both weeks this year, essentially, because he had
I
the
was
long
gonna say,
touchdown week 1, and then last
like all of a
week
sudden
he
here
had a
comes
bunch of volume.
Galladay, like out of nowhere.
Yeah. How much
I don't
is he?
see it, but
like, how much is he even on this slate? Just because it's just like, I have exposure to like a lot of people, but not Kenny Galladay at $6,200. I like the third wide receiver I'm taking shots on for the Cowboys. You can play Fahoke, you can play Jalen Tolbert or Turpin. Turpin would be my favorite just because he does have that kick return ability. And then, hey, they might bring him in for a jet sweep or a couple screens or something like that too. And Tolbert hasn't played all year. Fahoke has barely played all year. So
somebody's got to catch the ball though.
Yeah. They had Dennis Houston up, but then they waived him because Galladay was supposed to, or Gallup was supposed to be back, this week. And he practiced all week, and they're like, he's playing. And then, just kidding, he's inactive tonight. I'm like, okay, that's fun.
The way this week's kind of going, I'd be playing some of them underdogs because that's who's been scoring fantasy points.
Yeah. But I think I'm just going to throw one together right here. This would be what I would probably consider like the chalky cash lineup. So it'd probably be Barkley in the captain spot. You're going to play CD Lamb. You're going to play Sterling Shepard at that. You're going to play one of the kickers. So
just depends on, well, how are you going to build this? I'd put the kicker last.
No. Well, I mean, we're just going to put the kick. These are like, if you're building a cash lineup right now, this is probably where you're starting with Saquon Barkley, CeeDee Lamb, Sterling Shepard, and Graham Gano. That's probably the cash lineup at this point in time. Now, if you want to put, like, you would put Noah Brown in there and you got $3,700 left, and then I don't know who you're even looking at then. God, why is Gary Brightwell $2,800? That's terrible.
What's Bellinger?
44, I think. Yep. So you could change it around a little bit too. You could
you can go Tolbert, right? What's Tolbert?
Yeah, he's 1,000. So that's just my point. Those 4 are probably like, if you're going into a cash game lineup, what you're going to play. We could do a C in theory. Like, I got off of the captain spot there for a second. I think the easiest way to do a cash lineup probably though is if you put Sterling Shepard in the captain spot, which is not like what's probably going to be the most popular cash lineup because you play him. Okay, this just hates me right now. Okay, so Sterling Shepard, and then I think if you playing, what's typically good to do in showdown slates is if you play a wide receiver, you usually want to play their quarterback in the flex spot. You don't have to do it tonight because the way this game's going, like if it's a low scoring game, like Sterling Shepard and CeeDee Lamb might just get a bunch of volume. Saquon Barkley and Ezekiel Elliott might get a bunch of volume, and there might not be that many points scored. So, like in theory, you could just play like Sterling Shepard, CeeDee Lamb, Saquon Barkley, like a kicker and a defense or something like that, and that might be the top lineup. But in this case, we'll just put Daniel Jones in there right now, and then I already put Barkley in there. We got CeeDee Lamb. So, like, this is another version of it. I guess you could have. That way you get a quarterback in if you want to do it that way, and then you just pick the last spot for $3,200. But those are like some cash game options, really. I think those 4 players are probably going to be the biggest cash game. So there is a case to be made that maybe Tony Ballard is more used in the receiving game as well.
I think he's just kind of been, I feel like, don't you feel like Cooper Rush is kind of trusting him a little bit more than Zeke, man? If you've been watched, I don't know if you watched the game last week, but
I didn't watch that game.
Zeke definitely, he looked pretty gassed. He looked like the backup. Like he would come in and he would just get like 2 yards, 3 yards, or he'd run out of bounds, or he was dropping passes. Like it was pretty bad. It was pretty bad to watch. And then Pollard would come in and break a fucking 30-yard run. And you're like, oh, well, that's why.
Now you sound like Twitter.
Well, it's true. I mean, I was just watching the game, going, damn, this is pretty bad. Going, man.
Pollard would be more enticing if he wasn't $8,200. That's like the biggest thing.
That's
Like
true.
the fact that he's more than Sterling Shepard, and like I have a lot of interest in Noah Brown as a captain tonight, honestly.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that's a good one too.
I like Brown, or like there's another way you could do it where you could, if you put Cooper Rush in your captain, you play Brown and Lamb together.
I was talking about it earlier. The prop went up like by 4 yards. Like that's crazy. It jumped just
For
because
what?
of that prop, the receiving prop.
For Noah
I think it
Brown?
was at yeah, it was at 37.5 earlier when I was talking to you this morning, and then it jumped up like to 41.5 or something like that.
Yeah, it's probably once Gallup wasn't going to play.
Yeah, I was like, that's a huge jump, though. I mean, that's big jump.
Yeah. But if you do this way, like I like putting Cooper Rush, CeeDee Lamb, Noah Brown, certainly Shepard. But if you start doing it that way, then you have no room for Barkley. But like that's the case. Like if you're building for one of these GPPs, like if you're just fading Barkley, then that's something that could work too. Like heck, you can even put Zeke in there too if you really wanted to. But and if you're building it that way, I probably wouldn't put Zeke in. What if we put David Sills in? Then there's $6,000 left. Then you are open to Richie James if you really wanted to, but I probably want to play all the receivers for the Giants. That'd be a little bit too much there, but you could play one of these kickers, like a Brett Maher or something, leave $1,800 on the table. I don't think this is a bad slate to leave money on the
Some
table.
money on the table. Sure. Yep, I agree.
Yep. But yeah, so if anybody's listening, they got any suggestions, anything they'd like to try out, we can always try it out on the screen as well. This was not too organized. It's just kind of an impromptu stream, but something like I said before, I'd like to do a little bit more of going forward. I know last year I did pre-recorded videos for Thursday Night Football games where I kind of went through my player pool, and then I kind of built two lineups or had two lineups kind of built ahead of time, and then I kind of talked through them. Some people like that. If you guys like to see something like that again, just be sure to let me know as well.
Definitely. Yeah, this is gonna be a fun one. I mean, I gotta hop off and correct my lineup, but
yeah, we got time.
Set a couple.
We got time. Let's see here because we got about 20 minutes. So let's see if we can just build like two real quick together. This is gonna be a real short stream and everything though. So I'm gonna go back to the depth chart here real quick. So sometimes what you can do in these, if you want to have like a bunch of money, I don't think money's like as big of a deal now, but like sometimes you can put like one of them cheap guys in the captain spot. So if you want to take like a shot on one of these tight ends for Dallas, maybe it's Jake Ferguson, Peyton Hendershot, Sean McKeon, whoever it is. We're just going to pick Sean McKeon just because I know he's been with the team for a while. Then you only use $300 on your captain spot. So you have a lot of extra money left over. So then we could put like Saquon Barkley in. We could put both quarterbacks in if we really want to. Put CeeDee Lamb.
Isn't Turpin like $200?
Yeah. No, he's 600. Excuse.
Oh.
Yeah. But let's just say you put one of them cheap guys in real quick. Then all of a sudden you got your cheap tight end. You got the quarterback with his number one receiving option, the other quarterback with his number one receiving option is like Saquon Barkley. And we could do the same thing with Turpin as well because we got $1,400. So sometimes I like to run something like that out.
I mean, that makes sense.
I think maybe we'll just throw this one in. I was just already pulled up like a 10-cent contest just because that's what the first thing I clicked on. And like this is not a game that I'm wanting to throw a ton of money at or anything else like that. Honestly, I don't know if you want to go Millie Maker on tonight's or whatever. That's on you, but there's a lot of different variants that you can do. Content is full. Okay, we'll enter that one instead. Okay. But now I gotta get back to one of these contests real quick. We're just going with the cheap one just because it's not a great slate. Some of these slates.
Yeah, this could actually end up being a yawn fest. It could potentially be that a yawn.
I mean, last night was a yawn fest.
Oh my god.
Oh crap! I didn't want to enter that. Oops.
Kittle did like nothing. Like, I mean, he probably blocked.
He had two nice catch and runs, but that was about it. But he played 91% of snaps, so that was encouraging to see at least. So
I think what happened was the fact that they just played against, Denver, and they're very boring. So they just kind of played their kind of
both
game,
teams suck.
just boring. I
Like
think
I feel bad
Russell
for
Wilson is not as good as we think he is.
Yeah, so somebody was just like Ferguson $200 punt. I'm like, you can use any of the Dallas tight ends at punt. But so that's one option, is where we put the cheap guy in the captain spot. Now I'm just going to go back over because I want to find. Let's just do one with the defense. So which defense
That's a
would
good
you
way to build.
which defense would you prefer?
It's in Dallas, right?
It's in New York.
Oh. If it was in Dallas, I would say Dallas 100%.
So you want to go with the Giants?
I'd probably say the Giants.
Okay, we'll use the Giants defense. And then if you typically captain the defense, then you usually want to put the running back in on the same team. And now at some point we need 1 to 2 Cowboys that we're still going to throw in there. So I think in this case, you can play a CD Lamb, you can play a Noah Brown, somebody that's going to get targets. They're going to have value, but even if they don't score, it's not the end of the world. Or we could put one of them cheap tight ends down there too. If they just get 3 catches for 30 yards for $200, then that works too.
See, the one reason I really like Noah Brown is just because he definitely looks like the third down. Like if they're going for a third and long, it's going to be Noah Brown ball.
We'll throw him in, and then let's just throw Maher in, just because if the defense is kind of stopping them, then maybe they're kicking some field goals and it's not killing your defense at the same time. Some people don't like to put defense and kicker together. I don't really have a problem against it. So that's something to consider. And then we have $2,100, so we can pretty much play anybody at this point in time. Since we played the Giants defense, we played Saquon Barkley already. Are you interested in Daniel Jones or not?
I mean, he can probably get like 18 points.
I mean, quarterbacks still are typically the highest scorers, even if they're not that great at quarterback. He's averaging 15.6 right now. So if you use him, and then maybe his top receiving option is Sterling Shepard, somebody that we know is pretty safe. Even if you do this lineup, you got $4,500 left over. So you could go from Brett Maher, you could play your Zeke or your Tony Pollard or something like that if you really wanted to. But I think this one makes a little bit more sense personally. But you could also clear it out and then play like a CD Lamb or something like that instead.
I like this one too. Yeah. I like the defense kicker.
We can go back and do the same thing. Let me go back without killing me. We could do one with the Dallas defense too. No, I don't care about second half showdown. Not right now, at least. So let's do the opposite. We'll do the opposite with the Cowboys defense then. Wherever they went. There they are. So if you're playing a Cowboys defense, you're probably going to play Zeke. And I like Zeke tonight. I think this Giants defense, without Leonard Williams, without true linebackers in the middle, I think there's a case to be made that they can run the ball tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree.
You still have a backup quarterback in there too, so it's not like you want to sling the rock a lot either. So, but if you're playing Zeke, you're probably hoping he gets the touchdown. So you're probably not trying to get some of these other guys on touchdowns. But Noah Brown and CD Lamb can do just fine without the touchdowns. But if you play both of them, you probably should play Cooper Rush at that point in time.
I'd probably just play. You just played Noah Brown, the other one, maybe just throw Lamb in this one. I mean, maybe. To me, if you're hoping that Zeke gets the touchdown, I mean, you're hoping that they both score touchdowns. I mean,
you need volume either way, but I would probably play Brett Maher in this lineup just because the Cowboys are probably already scoring points. And if we're just kind of doing Cowboys defense, running back, and Cooper Rush not doing much, then like you get to the point where it's like, okay, what Giants do I want to play? Do you just play Saquon Barkley? Like, yes, you have the Cowboys defense, and probably means
Saquon or
Saquon
Richie
Barkley.
James. I'm thinking about receptions.
Yeah, but I don't think in my mind, like Richie James isn't guaranteed to get receptions. The only wide receiver they have that is guaranteed to get receptions is Sterling Shepard.
That's true. You're right.
So like, if you're just going to play the volume game, if you just play Saquon Barkley and Sterling Shepard, yes, they give volume. Yes, you don't lose leverage on those, and you're still fading you're still fading quarterback, you're still fading a couple other things, but like you still have like some of the popular players on the slate with CeeDee Lamb, Saquon Barkley, and Sterling Shepard. So like even if one of them does well, you still have a chance of cashing. But this is a line that you're making for a GPP to try to like take down at the same time, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense.
So we'll throw that one in too. That's kind of where I'm at right now. I don't know if you got anything else to say, but just trying to keep this real short, sweet, to the point, and everything.
No, just we got a show tomorrow night on Twitter Spaces for Patrick's Podium. If anybody has Twitter, make sure you get over there and follow all of us because we've been doing some pretty cool things with WagerWire. So
yes, sir.
It'll be pretty fun to do some Twitter Spaces tomorrow and just talk some waivers.
Yeah, waivers are always interesting. It's a pretty interesting waiver week too because we have DeAndre Swift that's got the shoulder injury. We got Dalvin Cook that's got a shoulder injury in day-to-day at this point in time. You got David Montgomery. I don't know the status of him fully at this point in time, but there could be some running backs, and running backs are that position that you kind of want to gobble up, and you don't want to make the mistake and pick up the
Khalil Herbert.
Yep.
Dude, he had a hell of a week, man. I love seeing him on my bench everywhere.
Yeah. You weren't going to start him when he played 20% of the snaps the week before.
No. That's why he was somebody, that, the running back for Chicago usually tends to do really well. So it's nice to have a backup for somebody, especially when we saw that he could do. He's talented running back.
Mm-hmm. He is a very talented running back, and he's a lot more spry, let's just put it that way, than David Montgomery. He's a quick shift, quick twitch type of guy as compared to Montgomery. Montgomery is a very shifty, patient runner and all that, but they're both good running backs.
I'm also going to say this too is Alexander Madison. I'm going to tell you a couple of his runs yesterday or on Sunday. He kind of looked a little bit like Dalvin. He must be watching film and just studying what he's been doing because he tricked my eyes a little bit.
Yeah, he's always been good, but he's just kind of like 80% version of Dalvin Cook. So
he just looked like he was doing some stuff like decision making, like where he was like juke here and stutter step here, like he looked like he was trying to play that part. So that's good to see that kind of progression.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see if Dalvin Cook does miss, if it's pretty much, if it's 80% Madison, or are they going to bring in Nwangu and Ty Chandler? Because Ty Chandler had a really good preseason, but he hasn't been active all year too. So that's
kind of a whole nother season, baby.
Oh God, fullback.
He's so good, dude. He's like use check.
So he doesn't.
Everybody loves him too. He's a captain.
Yeah.
Don't hate on the ham.
They used him a lot the first game, and then after that, they're just like, he's a fullback.
But that's because the Vikings decided they're like, all right, well, after game one, we're just going to go back to being the regular old Vikings and be super vanilla.
Yeah, something like that.
Everything like that. Not something. It's all. It's 100%.
Without trying to go too far down the Vikings rabbit hole, we'll get off of here real quick. So good luck to everybody playing tonight on DraftKings. If you have any other questions, feel free to reach out. Definitely open and willing to help you guys at any point in time, obviously. So, and hopefully this turns into an okay game to watch, because the last couple of primetime ones have not been very fun.
Not at all. Thursday nights, just bet the under.
Yeah, this one might be bet the under too, but I think the under is only like 39 points or something. So before we get out of here, just tell people where they can find you at.
Honestly, just go follow me on Twitter at JCMoneyDesign, because that's where we're trying to grow. That's right. We're trying to grow really big there. So lots of good things on there. It's not as negative as people think it is. Just if you surround yourself with positivity, there'll be a lot of positivity in your life. That's all you gotta do is get the negative away.
Mm-hmm. And all is too. I still do my, and yeah, I can't talk right now, but I do some NFL DFS sheets as well during the week. If you want access to that, it's on the Patreon. Definitely be sure to check that out. That includes the Thursday night, Sunday night, and Monday night football games. Pretty much most weeks. If I'm out of town or something like that, then sometimes the Monday night or Sunday night might get missed out, but Thursday is always on there. Definitely just gives you a player pool and kind of the core captains picks that I'd be looking at. Sometimes I like to tweet out based on the projected ownership for captains as well, based on Run the Sims as well. But with that being said, thank you for coming on with me, Justin, and hopefully everybody does very well tonight. Hopefully somebody takes home $1 million. I know there's only a couple people that ended up watching this, but hey, good luck tonight, and we'll get out of here and let you guys all have a great rest of your night.
Peace out.
Mm-hmm.